Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Founders Time. On this show we interviewed founders of early stage tech startups who are commercializing the latest machine learning and AI techniques. On this episode we're joined by the co-founders of PolyAI, Shawn,
Hello.
Eddy and Nikola. So guys, could you just briefly introduce yourself?
So hi, I'm Shawn. So I did a PhD in Cambridge with Professor Steve Young on dialogue systems. Before that, I was in I'm from Taiwan. I did my master in speech processing, and then during that master period, I also joined a startup company called StorySense. So we did a lot of smart search. Kind of you can use in natural languages to search for like restaurants and ask for phone numbers, things like that. Yeah. So and during the PhD, I also do I was also a part-time research consultant to New York company called IPsoft. I was with them developing the media. What they call is a cognitive personal system that can actually help you to improve your work. Yeah, and then during all this period, I also do lots of seminar talks in different big companies, and then invited to Samsung Poland to give a corporate training course there. So I've been doing quite lots of different things in the past few years.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nikola. I'm Serbian. I studied at Cambridge, did my undergrad there, master's with Professor Zubin Garmani on Gaussian processes. And for my PhD, I worked with these two guys in the same lab with Professor Steve Young. So in my PhD, I worked on language understanding, NLP for that, word vectors, cross-lingual word vectors, building models that can understand many languages at once, and kind of stuff like that. Apart from that, I worked at a startup called Vocal IQ in Cambridge as well. And that was kind of a very machine learning oriented dialogue system startup, which was later sold to Apple. So I also worked for Apple Siri in Cambridge for 2 years as a kind of part-time researcher while finishing my PhD. And yeah, I'm kind of like with these two guys, we're looking to use all that knowledge and experience to do something together.
Yeah, so I'm Eddy. I'm also a Taiwanese, same as Shawn. So like before flying all the way to the UK to study my dialogue system PhD with these two guys, with our professor Steve Young. I did my master and my bachelor back in Taiwan, mostly in electrical engineering. Yeah, so by that time I was actually quite distracted by all sort of different music activities. Like I play in several amateur bands with lots of my friends over there. Yeah, and because of this passion towards this kind of music related activity, I was picking one interesting research direction to actually dive into it. And I actually found that, sound is kind of related to, voice recognition, speech processing stuff. So that's why I dive into this research direction and later on dive further more into the entire pipeline of the talking to machine, like this kind of everything. Yeah, so apart from these kind of, these dialogue research stuff, I have been working as an intern in a software engineering company, and also doing the research into back in the US with Facebook AI research team on pure research perspective. Yeah, so and I think that this actually helps a lot to give me actually a lot of insight to see what is actually needed for the machine learning point of view to apply it to the dialogue systems.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I know you've mentioned that you've worked previously in startups, but do you have any examples of projects where you've used your own initiative to go and explore something, or maybe even work on a startup idea?
Yeah. So apart from the startups I've joined previously, I also did a little bit, small project on our own with two of my friends. So what we were doing is like a draw to search kind of idea. So is that kind of like you can draw a picture on your own whiteboard, and then we have an algorithm to actually help you to search all similar shape of image from a pool of the data. So that was actually quite fun because actually at that point we don't have deep understanding about what is image recognition or even deep learning. We just try to pull all the possible tools together, try to assemble a viable kind of technology to actually do all these things. Actually, that experience was quite fun. And then also, although the technology is not superior, but it's actually working quite well. So, but in the end, we didn't actually pursue to actually try to commercialize it. And I think that's actually something that I've been thinking about for in the past few years. So that's why I decided to just jump off the school and then start this company with these two guys, because I think that I need to do something like in that direction, because that's I think what I want, and that's what I think I can actually contribute to the society.
Okay, cool. So I know you mentioned that all of you studied together in Cambridge, but do you remember exactly how you've met each other?
Yeah, so I'll answer this question. As you know that we have been like colleagues like back in for the entire 3 years back in Cambridge. Yeah, but especially for Shawn, actually I know this guy for almost 10 years, more than 10 years to be honest. Yeah. So we were studying in the same department in our undergrad, and we went to the same lab, the same speech processing lab in Taiwan as well, and then come all the way here to Cambridge. Yeah, so this kind of friendship, I think, is kind of precious and also profound. I mean, like we have been to a lot of like up and downs in all sorts of different student activities and also research-oriented activity as well. Yeah, so I think this is actually very healthy, and also, I mean, it's a kind of like a healthy competition between, three of us as well, because we know each other are actually working super hard, and so we don't want to, kind of be left over in some sense, right? Yeah, so this is a very good motivation to, help us to kind of like push our limits to the next level. Yeah, and for Nikola, as you see that our kind of like meeting was not that interesting, like ridiculous, that all sort of different like founder, like how they met up, right? Yeah, so for Nikola, I still remember my very first talk with Nikola was actually in our lab. Yeah, it was kind of like around like 6-7 p.m. at night, where I was still struggling to figure out where is the pound sign in my keyboard, because I'm much more used to American keyboard. Yeah, so this guy kindly pointed me out, and after that, I think that's how we started the company. It was the plan. Yeah, it was the seed.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure. So I think we have. I think that this kind of like the long friendship that we actually establish is a very core, a very important part that can potentially help us to be successful for the AI stuff.
All right. Yep. Well, guys, thank you for introducing yourself. So can we now go back to PolyAI and really talk about what your roles are in your team and what skills you bring to the table? So
So as you may know, like all the three of us all graduating from Cambridge, so we actually bring a lot of technology know-how with us. But each of us, we have different roles, because if you are doing a company, you can like have three people working on tech together, right? So that's why we split the roles. And I think it's also a good thing that the technology we bring from Cambridge is actually, so although all the three of us are working on dialogue systems, but we are working on different part of the dialogue systems. So we have Nikola was working with natural language understanding, Eddy was working with dialogue management, which is the decision-making part, and I was working on the language generation. So altogether, you can have a working dialogue system. So after that, we split the roles into, so Nikola is the CEO, who is, I think, a perfect role for that. He's a very charming speaker. He's talked to one of our investors who is very, very, very senior, and this investor said that this is probably the best pitch he has ever heard in years. And Eddy, he's the role of the CTO. So, and I think Eddy's unique skill is that he's very patient about everything. You can never think of ways to piss him off, because he's just so patient, so nice. So I think he's a very good role for handle the entire technical stack. So people complain, but he will just find a way to get people into their own position. So in terms of my role, I'm doing the chief scientist role. So because we are a very high tech company, so we need to put a lot of efforts in research to find the best way to deliver our resource, our product, and how to build this research into products. So I think I am in charge of the role because all the three of us can do this role very well. But I'm also quite good at this. I've been to quite a lot of inviting talks. So
Yeah, he has the strongest academic background.
Yeah,
By far.
Yeah.
He's very modest. Thank you. He has like EMLP best paper with 200 citations. He's a beast.
Nice.
And he's also modest.
Yeah.
When talking about himself.
Yeah.
For us, he's exaggerating.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then looking at the bigger picture for PolyAI, what's the vision for the company and what kind of problem, what's the main problem you're trying to solve?
Right. So if you kind of like look at, you walk around London today, you're going to see, in the space of 10 minutes, you're going to see 10 ads for, Alexa and Amazon Echo. You're going to, you're in the gym for half an hour and you hear 4 ads for Google Home, right? So you see that these virtual personal assistants are becoming the next platform for like every kind of technology. You're being forced to use them, and people are actually finally starting to like using it. And Echo is the best, number 1 selling item on Amazon. So even though people use these things quite a lot, every functionality that exists on those platforms for now is pretty much built by Amazon or Google or by the platform provider. Now, the equivalent to this would be if iOS and the iPhone only had apps built by Apple. Well, the smartphones would not be what they are today. So it's still very hard for third-party companies like say someone like Airbnb, Skyscanner, arbitrary companies to build functionality that can be used to build their functionality into these personal assistants. So say Google will connect you to Spotify, but that's pretty much the only really compelling use case. So what we can do with our expertise and what we can provide is a kind of a toolkit, software development kit, a developer platform in the end for building these third-party applications, conversational agents for these personal assistants. And we want to be that bridge between third-party users and these platforms. We're not trying to compete with platforms, and you can't. These guys hold them, they are who they are, Google, Amazon, Apple, maybe Microsoft. But actually, to connect them widely to any business that may want to interact through these devices with their customers is still a long way. And that's what we're going to do.
Okay, cool. So I understand that essentially the problem space is around natural language processing. So could you explain in more detail the NLP and how it fits into broader ML space in general?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually dialogue is super challenging and big domain that we have ever seen. I mean, in this kind of intersection of NLP and machine learning areas, because as Shawn said, it involves lots of chunks within the entire big framework, right? And speech recognition, natural language understanding, dialogue management, natural language generation, all the way to text to speech, right? So this entire loop, it's actually involving lots of interesting techniques inside. So as you said, okay, so essentially because dialogue is about communication, whether we can communicate with all other human being or the machine itself. Yeah, so here language is essentially one of the core element within this kind of interaction, right? Yeah, so natural language, natural language processing or natural language understanding stuff. Yeah, so for understanding and generation, essentially we are trying to capture what the user is talking about, the intent, from the sentence itself. And on the other hand, for natural language generation, we are trying to convert the system intention, system action back to the natural language to talk to the user. Yeah, so this involves a lot in this kind of the emerging NLP techniques. So for example, if we're talking about in English right now, but if we want to talk about in Chinese or all other stuff like the word vector cross-lingual research where Nikola is expert in it, this will plays a very important role in to scale across different languages. And so on the other hand, I talk about the dialogue management, which is the decision-making part of the entire framework. So nowadays people are trying to come up with a template-based rules, to set up lots of rules to come up with a good interaction between the user and the system. But this is like a firefighter trying to push up all the fire from different places, right? It never ends. Yeah. So on the other hand, machine learning actually provide a very good solution for you to learn from data. Mm-hmm. Especially we are living in the world of big data right now. We can easily collect lots of useful or even create a useful conversational data for us to train our data-driven model. Yeah. So all in all, I think this is a very interesting, a very hard topic that we are ready and we are very excited to dive into ourselves.
And I guess it's very good that you're all coming from an academic background as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and could you just run me now through your technology stack and what software you utilize to help you with to get the job done?
Sure. So as we said previously, we have these three modules, like core modules in turning text back to text. So you have input user and request, and then you turn it into a system response. All these three modules we will use a lot of deep learning techniques in it. So another one essential problem for apply deep learning for conversation agent is that the data itself is actually very hard to collect. Mm-hmm. So we in our PhD we actually come up with an idea. Is what we call the wizard of data collection idea. Is that instead of you handcraft the system first, and then you deploy the system, let it talk to the users, and then when you see some failure cases, you iterate improve it by asking your engineers to put in more rules. What we do is a radically different approach. Is that we ask, for example, Airbnb or these kind of people, what are the compelling scenarios in your application? And then we use the scenarios to create a task on the mechanical Turk platform. And for example, we hire two people and ask them to talk to each other about how to book Airbnb on their website, right? And then the other side of it, we will have another user who plays the role of the system, and we give him all the backend consoles of a particular application. And then this guy can just try to click all these consoles, search for the database, and provide the answer. So all these kind of things that we can collect a complete dialogue from the beginning to the end, and then we apply deep learning models to learn from it. So all these deep learning models we can, for example, implement in whatever kind of frameworks you can imagine, like TensorFlow, CNN, whatever. But the real important thing is that the data we collected is actually from real humans, not like a user trying your failures system and then getting very, very angry. So all these data we collected, they are actually quite creative. This is the most natural way people can interact. So we get these very high quality data, we train a model on top of it, so you can have a very, very robust model from the beginning. And of course, you can do this iterative improvement process in the future, but then it can actually have a very good experience to the user you want to target, and they will try to come back then more and more. So that's, I think, the core value and all the algorithm.
Okay. So I know you've mentioned that data is one of the biggest challenges right now. Is that the only challenge we're facing, or are there other challenges that are really tough right now?
Right. So, I mean, in terms of data, it's a challenge for almost anyone who is deploying dialogue systems and training them. And, these algorithms, things like TensorFlow and, these general toolkits for doing deep learning have really democratized machine learning in a sense, in that these models are readily available, and the differences between them, they're frequently very incremental, and one model is a bit better than the other. But the real value comes, and the real reason why the giants are where they are, is that they have that amount of data. Mm-hmm. So what Shawn has been talking about, our Wizard of Oz data collection platform, is exactly kind of like our silver bullet, because it's collecting data that at the end of the interaction does not need to be labeled. It comes with labels there because of the interaction that we're facilitating.
Yeah.
So actually, this is, I think, our biggest competitive advantage. I mean, we do have a really good understanding of the whole machine learning pipeline of statistical dialogue systems, but really the data collection is where we think we can, fight with the big guys long term. Mm-hmm. But with other challenges that we're facing now, yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting for us since we started, because it's totally different to what we've been doing, for the past 3 years. But for example, say, yesterday we were for the first time developing kind of like our sprint board, and defining tasks, user stories in a good way. So we have two people, the next two guys joining in 2 days on Monday. Matt Henderson, who is like a machine learning superstar. He worked at Google at Carousel in Singapore. He was the lead author of Google Smart Reply, and he's really great. And we have Ivan Vulic, who is kind of like one of the most well-known cross-lingual natural language processing experts. So initially, both of them will be working with us remotely. So I think the challenge there will be for us to transition to, group of people who can coordinate our workflow well, especially in that environment. And I think that's going to be a different challenge and quite interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I know you've been working PolyAI for a few months now. So have you made any mistakes since starting, and what have you learned from them?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest mistake that we had made was actually back in maybe late November. Yeah, so that was the time where we actually finalize our directions and like get a good like deal with some of our VCs, and because we're straight from academia. Yeah, so like, and we thought that we know a lot about like dialogue in general, or dialogue application in general. Yeah, so we actually spent 2 entire weeks to build the model itself that we thought it would fit the entire market like fit itself. Yeah, so but later on we actually found that we were actually somehow building kind of orb. Yeah, because that doesn't really, that is not the things that people really want to use it. Yeah, because as we talk about that, we are starting from a kind of like a limited domain where, for example, the restaurants or hotel related information seeking stuff. Yeah, and we just dive straight into that. But it didn't turn out to be what we found from the market need that people really want to use it. Yeah, so I think that's the main mistake that we actually figured out so far, and we are trying to, try to alleviate it. But on the other hand, this is also kind of important. So we're doing all this market research and also like model building, data collection, all in parallel. Yeah, and I think that's actually the right direction to go.
So can you talk now more about your short-term plans for PolyAI?
Yeah. So in terms of the short-term plans, I think there are two directions we are going after. So one thing is that we have started to have some hires that are join us from next week. So one of our primary goal now is to build this core team and then get everyone up to speed. And we have an architect join us in next month. So after he join, we are going to build our infrastructure to allow us to do a lot of experiments and also be able to deploy larger systems to the as a product. So that would be the first goal, to assemble a core team with diverse ability to cover all the things we need. And the second thing I think is that we are actively looking into what is the best way to deliver our technology into the product. Like, what is the best way that people can actually understand the machine learning algorithm behind it? How are we let the people to collect their own data for their own? Are we going to collect them ask them to collect the data on their own, or we are going to collect the data for them? Because we have a lot of know-how. These are all very deep knowledge, and it's not easily transferable. And if we decided to do it, we need to build a very good tutorial page to actually educate these people how to do it. So there are quite a lot of things we are still figuring out, but these are in a good way. We just need to think about what is the best way to deliver the technology into a product.
Okay. Yeah. So I know you mentioned that growing a team is one of the goals. Mm-hmm. So why should people join your startup instead of hundreds of others in London?
Okay. That's a good one. And I guess we're going for several different audiences when we talk about that. So, the reason the three of us are doing this together, and is that we think that what a lot of people who are good machine learners, NLPers today, they're just going into these big industry labs, and they're very, very good places to do research, but we don't think they're the best place for growth. If you actually want to fight, a real world problem in a non-academic way. Because when you're in academia, you're just, fighting for one number. You can present things any way you want. You do interesting things, but it's kind of out of scope. You don't know if people really need it, if they'll benefit. What we want to build is a startup stacked with really, really good applied machine learning people, and we want to tackle these challenges. So we think that anyone who is good at machine learning and wants to actually, build dialogue systems that people actually want to use and enjoy using, not just, they're not just functional and able to provide the information, but that it's something that people will say, hey Siri, then I think that we're the best company in London. We're the best company in the world, maybe, to do something like this in the NLP space. And equally for good engineers, for good architects, for everything like that, we need help. And in academia, you can do a lot of good, interesting research, but it's only an industry when there's a lot of money and support and know-how in business and in engineering that you can actually scale this out and do something really, really impressive.
Okay.
So,
And obviously, to grow your team, you will need funding. So, do you have an elevator pitch, for example?
we do have an elevator pitch. We also have funding. We raised 1.7 million from Passion Capital and Amadeus Capital from Cambridge. But the elevator pitch is this, and it's kind of what I mentioned before. Virtual personal assistants are everywhere. They're used more and more, and the market, third-party companies do these things, are dying for a product that makes it easy to integrate their capability into these agents. Like they can build an app for smartphones or websites for the web. The market is very, very hungry, and there are many companies trying to do this, and they're doing it very badly. They don't know how to put machine learning in this. We do know. We worked on it for a long time. We'll give you the best, cleanest, simplest way to do it.
Okay, nice.
I think that was 25 seconds.
I think that's short and sweet.
Thanks.
So, guys, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
So you can just drop us an email at contact@poly-ai.com.
Now we're coming to a conclusion of our video. What has been the biggest highlight so far since launching PolyAI?
Yeah, so I feel like actually, I mean, just as I said, that we were actually straight from the academia. So actually, and I mean, dive directly to the startup. So actually, every single discussion or every decision we have made was actually, I mean, very challenging and very exciting to us. Yeah, and talking about highlight, I feel like there was actually a aha moment that I can come up to my mind right now. Yeah, so we were actually discussing our direction, the pitch that Nikola just gave to you, with one of the EF mentor here, Alex Dias. Yeah, so we're now the resident here in Entrepreneur First. Yeah. An accelerator to help a new entrepreneur to scale. Yeah, so we couldn't really convince him on our on our pitch, our market research, all sort of like different directions. Because that guy, he is actually a very experienced engineer, product manager who has been working in Google at Yahoo for a little while. Yeah, and so we were actually sit just right across in the room, over there. Yeah, and just one moment that Nikola just come up with a very interesting historical story to combine all sort of technology and the fundamental need about why we are using dialogue research, dialogue assistance. Yeah. So yeah, here it is. It was what he gave us.
Well, it's a bit longer than that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, well, this concludes our first episode. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel and subscribe to the updates on our website. Guys, thank you very much for taking your time,
Thank you.
wish you all the best.